right now.
Yes.
Hello,
absolutely.
Dan. How are you?
Hello.
Start from the very beginning. Where were you born? Where are you from? What's your story?
Well, I was born in Ashland, Ohio.
That's a real place, right? You're not making that up?
That's a real place,
Okay.
yes.
My name is Dan Niswander. As a musician, I call myself Niswander, and I've been a musician my entire life. Started when I was 5 years old, singing in church, and the Blackwood Brothers came to our church, which was a very famous gospel group and Elvis Presley's favorite group.
Oh, awesome.
So that was the first thing I experienced at 5 years old.
Now, is that the group with the guy with the super deep voice?
Yes, he was in it
I remember
originally.
him talking
Yeah.
about that, yeah.
So it was that was my first exposure to professional music.
Cool. That's a good one to have.
Yeah, and I found out later that they were Elvis Presley's favorite group. So that's how and of course my parents were classically trained, so I got that exposure. And singing first at 5, playing piano at 10.
I began playing the piano at age 10 years old and probably performed at least 1,000 times as a soloist, member of various choirs and other ensembles. There were one-man shows, and I played in rock bands. I worked as a background actor in Hollywood TV shows and films, and worked on various film projects, and taught English in Japan while in California in my 20s.
When I first went out to the Los Angeles area in my 20s, and it was the 80s and the early 90s, I did write quite a bit of music. It was a very prolific period for me, particularly in the late 80s and the early 90s. And I jammed with a lot of people, did one-off projects with various people. But the two musicians I worked with the most was a drummer, JJ, originally from St. Louis, Missouri, and guitarist El Tal from North Hollywood. So El had some original songs, but the vast majority of the demos were my compositions. And we tried to meet other musicians, put a band together, and nothing really gelled, but we had a lot of great creative work together. And El and I are still great friends to this day. And I'm going to go into the story of why I went back to Indiana.
When I was back east in Indianapolis, Indiana, and in the Midwest, I recorded 2 professional albums.
I met a producer-engineer in the Indianapolis area, and introduced to me from another musician in the area. And I had some new songs I was working on after coming out of a very difficult time in my life, and I went into the studio. I worked with some of the best studio musicians in central Indiana. Dane Clark from the John Mellencamp Band, who had just joined the Mellencamp Band like 6 months before. Also, Randy Melson, who was a bass player, worked a lot with the gospel singer Sandy Patty, who I knew from college days, and also did a lot of orchestrations for her. And then Charlie Smith, a great jazz guitar player in central Indiana. Even though he was quite versatile as well as a virtuoso, he could play rock and roll, but at the time he was mostly doing jazz, and he did some great solo work, particularly on 3 songs that we did. One which ended up on Revolution of the Heart, which was a Chameleon. And David Priddy was the producer, and the engineer was Glenn Scott. And so a 3-song demo was complete, and I was calling myself Daniel Lyon, Lyon, basically as a kind of a solo artist, but also writer, right? With the idea maybe other artists could record songs that I write, which I'm still interested in. There's one particular song of those 3 to this day. But as it progressed, I lived in Indianapolis, Indiana. I met the Johnson brothers, Eric Klee and Mark Johnson, who were twin brothers that co-owned a studio in the Broad Ripple area of Indianapolis. It's called Rev Recording. a basement studio with ADAT tape, and so next thing I know, I've got this the equipment that I purchased to make a lot of demos in California, kind of a sequencing daisy chain of equipment, and a lot of electronic kind of produced songs came together, and I started recording those, and then I had written some other songs that really needed live musicians, as I had done originally with the first session that I'd done with David and Glenn in another studio. And I wrote this song called Surfin With Jesus. And I took a song that I had written as a teenager in Indiana, one of the first, what I would consider professional songs I ever wrote, called Out of Order.
I have a clip from, this is the first album, which is called Revolution of the Heart. And when I first started recording it, I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, to be honest. I just wanted to do a recording. As a matter of fact, I just started with this 3-song demo. I thought that's all it was going to be. And I got to record with some of the best musicians in the state of Indiana, including John Mellencamp's drummer, Dane Clark, who had taken over from Kenny Aronoff.
And then he appears on this Revolution of the Heart?
Yes, he's on one track on that album called Chameleon.
Right.
And so I put together a one-man show. It's mostly electronic music with a few tracks that are a full band. And I just started, with keyboard in hand and a stand in the other and a prop bag. Went around to different open mics and did it. And next thing I know, I'm asked to do a warm up for rock bands, and I was given a variety show at a nightclub that I did once a month. It ended up being for 3 years. And a very short period of time, I went from being nobody in the scene in Indianapolis to being one of the more popular artists, kind of quirky and David Bowie-esque, kind of thing.
Yeah, very cool.
And because I would bring characters into the show and do all kinds of fun things with that, kind of the Hollywood style kind of thing. And people loved the song called Surfin With Jesus that was on the album.
That is a pretty cool song title.
It was one of those magical moments, of things that just kind of pulled together, and I knew somehow people would like it, and they did, they're, most like I say, it's mostly electronic, but there are some rock tunes on this album.
Right on.
And I do have a clip.
I believe we do have a clip.
From,
if we could.
It's called Out of Order.
Cue that up and play it. And then this is is it just a music clip or is it like a video?
It's a clip from a music video.
There's another poor man who lives down the street who doesn't have the money for new shoes on his feet. He works hard each day to earn his wage. It seems that life is a surrounding cage. And when I see the confusion all around us, I know that this is nothing humorous. So it's out of order. Let's all try to put the pieces back together again.
Those were recorded with Eric and Mark and other musicians in the Indianapolis kind of Broad Ripple scene there. I also worked with a percussionist, Raul Pedro, who I worked with in my daytime job for quite a few years, and he was a professional percussion player, also a drummer, and he played congas on Something's Happening Here. And next thing I know, there's a full-length album.
Revolution of the Heart was released in 1999.
As this world is turning, I feel my heart beating. I'm alive. Like the ancient rhythm of the drum, do I know where I've come from, or where I'm going? story of a woman. This is the story of a man. And the feeling that they share is that they really care about everyone. Whether rich or poor, the heart is an open door for good. They understand compassion.
Chameleon, that featured Dane Clark, the drummer from the John Mellencamp Band.
This next one is called Chameleon.
Because I did have to work a so-called regular job to pay the bills, right? And in the evenings, I would, be in the music scene or be recording or writing or whatever. And eventually, when I had the album, I had a CD release party. Steve Hammer from Nouveau News Weekly gave it a great review, and I was playing open mics, starting with, 10-minute sets and expanding to like 20 minutes and half an hour, and then I would get invited to do a full-length show, opening for other bands in clubs, and I would do Surfin With Jesus and karaoke, and just to try it out in different places. People loved it. I sang at Unity churches in the area, and they loved because I did a variety of different music, and it just grew. I mean, people would come out to shows. It got to a point where I was playing a solo show, and I was the main attraction.
I performed about a dozen characters in my live shows and videos that I called
Niswander Rock Theater.
The characters included Nowman, the superhero of the present moment, avant-garde artist Chip Jingleheimer, stand-up comedian Buddy Shine, Dan Westwood, who was a British undercover secret agent, Lukewarm, a storyteller, rock and roller Mellow Man, punk rocker Glam Sam, MOJO Workman, Dr. Hans Nutcase, time traveler. I had a lot of fun with it, mixed it up with rock and roll.
I was used to producing live shows, and even had a variety show at a nightclub for 4 years. And I could bring in characters, which Nowman was one of my characters technically. And I one night actually I had to stop the show and let Prince and New Power Generation play. So it was pretty cool.
I guess that's, if you got to let somebody play.
Yeah, right.
Might as well be Prince of the New Power Generation.
But I was also one of those kinds of people that just like, not just music. People like David Bowie inspired me to do anything I wanted to do, right? I began doing my own original variety show at Birdie's called Mystery Monday. It includes music and comedy, video. I've had a magician, ballet dancer. It's variety. And now it's my privilege to bring back to the stage one of my Mystery Monday favorites right here, Mr. Brian Archer, ladies and gentlemen. We actually received recognition from the office of George Harrison after a tribute show, and we can even say that Prince was a mystery guest.
I was pissed off about the whole Prince thing because I wanted to see Niswander. Where it started out with the one song at my karaoke show, and then I heard a CD, and then I got to witness it as it progressed, and it's It's unlike anything else anybody would ever have an opportunity to experience here. Perhaps anywhere. And probably the most entertaining night you could go out and just have. But when the band came, it just blew me away even more so. And there's little else that anybody in this town has the opportunity to experience live that is comparable to a Niswander show.
This is Birdie's Bar and Grill. You see the sign over here. In Indianapolis, Indiana, for 3 years, I had a monthly variety show here from 2001 to 2004. In this location, in Broad Ripple of Indianapolis, I lived here. So I definitely wrote songs for both of my albums, Revolution of the Heart and Adventures in Wanderland, in that room right there. And yeah, this is the house. And where were you on 9/11? David Lindquist, from who was the music reviewer at the Indianapolis Star newspaper, wrote a great review. So as time went on, a band formed and played many shows, played live on TV, Fox 59 Morning News. It was such an exciting time to be part of a music scene that was very vibrant in the early 2000s. So here it is. I produced an album and released it before the end of the 20th century. It was quite a magical time, or whatever the word would be to try to describe it. Sometimes I don't have the words. It was amazing, it was wonderful, it was enlightening, exciting. I worked with so many great musicians. It would take me a long time to mention all their names, but I'll list them in the credits. IndianapolisMusic.net, Matt Fetcher, Jeff Sample, who was also in the band and played an instrumental role in so many different ways.
The guys are going to be playing Birdies tomorrow evening.
And the Niswander Band played at a huge Clear Channel music festival that featured several stages and acts as diverse as Blondie, Los Lobos, The Roots, George Thorogood and the Destroyers, and Sugar Ray. The band performed live on the local Fox Morning News show twice, and my music was played on commercial radio stations in Indianapolis.
2003. This was Adventures in
Wanderland. Yeah.
Because you're Mr. Niswander.
Yeah. Well, actually, nice, but it's
Niswander.
Niswander, yeah. My grandfather didn't know English, so he thought, I guess, nice was spelled N-I-S.
Oh, okay.
He changed the name. People started coming up to me and said, "Why don't you form a band?" And so I thought about doing that. Nobody wanted to actually form a band with me. They wanted to be the band. The second album was just with all live band, people that had played in the band in one time or another. You know, it's all live band music.
Adventures in Wanderland. It includes the melodic punk rock song Read a Book.
How's everybody doing? I need love, but that's not all. Something to stimulate my brain. Doesn't have to be that deep. something to take with me on a plane. I'd like to read a book, but a song that has a hook. Travel to exotic places, I want to read a book. Well, there's always a story to find, subject matter of any kind. Not just look at the pictures, I want to read a book. Oh, yeah! I look at you, and what do I see? Someone with feelings just like me. And no matter where you live, well, there's always so much to give, because love is something to receive. And if for some reason we don't agree, I still must love you, and you still must love me. We may not seem to get along, but love is the reason for this song, and I've got to love you this way. Everyone in this place makes the world go round. Everyone in this place makes the world go round. Everyone in this place makes the world go round. Everyone in this place makes the world go round and round.
Fun to the Nth Degree, which is the theme song of Nowman, superhero of the present moment, and later my television show, The Nowman Show.
Welcome one and all to the carnival, into the festivity of the diversity. A celebration like a party atmosphere. Live life to the fullest and keep the mind clear. I know it sounds cliche to be the best that we can be. Open up your eyes, tell me, what do you see? Gotta use common sense when it comes to having fun. Don't have to be a rocket scientist to know how this is done. And I say,
I started writing a book because I'd been playing around with the character Nowman from my rock theater group of characters, and I thought, superhero of the present moment, that I like that vibe of that character. I just haven't done anything with it, really.
Yeah.
So I started saying, I'll start just writing something like it's a journal.
I walked through those doors right there and was on the stage of a national television show. When it finally did broadcast, it was in May and then rebroadcast in July. The final edit on television included my message to the world. I think that message is still true now.
I believe that it's a critical time in our history right now to bring people together, and I think what better way to do it than with music?
All right, Mr. Nowman.
got my MOJO working. I got my MOJO brewing. Some great stuff. I'm not fooling. MOJO.
Niswander, music on Apple iTunes and other aggregates. Albums Revolution of the Heart and Adventures in Wanderland. There's also the television show The Nowman Show, which is a cultural magazine variety show focusing on arts, entertainment, education, and news.
First of all, to kind of describe their sound.
Well, I started calling it Rocktronica when I first started doing the solo act, but it kind of evolves over time. I'm one of those never-ending changing people, so reinventing myself.
Ooh, we've heard that.
Yeah, you've heard that.
We've heard that you're, some people say, a little crazy, very entertaining, not sure the exact word to describe you. How do you describe yourself?
That sounds pretty close.
Space. Funky space.
One of the things that I'm here to do in this Earth experience, I guess you could say, that was to make not only music, but to do it professionally.
I think we need a new renaissance. What can we do together to help make this world a better place?
Every historical epic requires each of us to recreate the spirit of the times.
On a bigger level, America needs love.
I believe a renaissance is on the other side.
I have no idea how we can bring people together. I really don't. I would say music.
Yeah.
But music kind of transcends.
We need a new renaissance. More music and art we can find. We need a new renaissance. Be more generous and kind. Something for the heart and the mind. Lights on in a better home. Lights on somebody's home. Lights on in a one home. Lights on somebody's home.
Be present always. And stay tuned.
But Dan, never give up.
Absolutely.
He's ready now. He's Nowman. He's Nowman.
Oh, hello.
We're getting ready to change the world, so stay tuned.